All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Brotherly Blog. I'm here with my brother. Say hi, Adam.
Hi, Adam.
All right. Today we're going to talk about recruits, mainly recruits for the Final Four teams that were in the tournament this year, meaning Duke, Michigan State, Wisconsin, and Kentucky. Um, Basically, quick rundown. We're going to go through the recruits that have committed, maybe even some that are seeking each of the teams, and we're going to see how those teams are going to impact each team and what they could do in the tournament, and if each team will end up in the same spot as they were in the tournament this year, meaning the Final Four. So we got a lot to talk about, so let's get started. We're going to start with Kentucky. Kentucky has two commits right now that are in the top 10, no surprise. The first one, which is number 3 overall, is what was his first name?
I,
Scott.
Isaiah? Skull.
Skal Labrasi. He's a center. He's 6'11", and they also have Isaiah Briscoe. They are also actively seeking Malik Newman and who is the other one? Jaylen Brown, who are the number 2 and 4, I believe, in the top 100 according to Rivals.com. So, that could very well happen when they get a top 5 recruit team again. All these guys are 5 stars, by the way. John Calipari is extremely capable of getting guys like that, and it could happen again to where Kentucky has got this big, massive team that's going to be super hard to beat. Adam, what do you think?
It's totally likely that they'll get at least one of those two. If not, there are still quite a few players in the top 20 of a mini rankings that have not committed yet. So I wouldn't really be surprised to see 2, maybe even 3 kids from that top 20 signed to Kentucky. Isaiah Briscoe is an insanely good recruit. He's so big, 6'3", 215, I think. Skull, I don't even know much about the guy, but being 7 foot almost and being in the top 10 in most rankings, the guy's got to be good. Calipari is going to do exactly what he did this year with those guys.
Probably not another Karl Anthony Towns, but it's definitely possible that both could be one and dones depending on how their season goes, I would say.
Along with the guys that they haven't got yet, but they probably will.
When we're talking about Kentucky and you talk about the players, there's not much to talk about how they can impact the team because Calipari has this knack for recruiting guys who can already play. It's just a matter of acclimating them to a college level, and which means just being more physical and being a little bit more boosting their IQ of the game. You watch all these recruit videos and they're just balling on all these small dudes, and it's just like, that's impressive, but can they do it with guys their size? So, I'm just saying, John Calipari, I've said previously that he can't coach. Well, I didn't say that he can't coach. I just said he doesn't have to. He doesn't have to coach.
True. That's a good point. That's a good point. To a degree, it's like he doesn't have to coach, but like you said, these kids are going to make impacts on the team because they are so good. They really are. But they're not going to – it's almost like you can say, hey, guys, don't turn the ball over. Have a good game. It seems like that's almost what it's like with him.
I wouldn't go as far as to say that, but, these guys are people who know how to play the game, so it's just – and on top of that, Kentucky could lose, I think – the last article I read was about 7 guys. So, as far as them making it very far in the tournament, I feel like they could. It just depends because you put all that pressure on those freshmen and they performed pretty well. So Calipari had to do something with that. But they only have 2 freshmen, some returning starting players, I believe, or are they?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think their starting 5 is gone.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. I think Kentucky probably won't reach the Final Four, and that's not me being biased, even though I'd love to see that. I think it's just I don't think they're going to be as competitive as they were this past year for a really long time.
Yeah, yeah, and they've got kids still. They still have Marcus Lee, who's probably going to make a huge jump.
Yeah, IU was looking at him. I remember that.
Yeah, and with the guys he brings in, he's going to put out a good team. It might be the team they had like in 2013, 2014. A lot of talent. They just needed to come together a little more like they did in 2014, 15. But I think you're right. I don't think they'll get back to the Final Four.
It's going to be a show out for them in the NBA, though. I mean, they got a bunch of guys. So, let's see. I'd say that the next best recruiting team out of the Final Four is Duke.
Okay.
Not as high as recruits as Kentucky, obviously, but I mean, we saw Mike
Krzyzewski.
Okay, we saw Mike Krzyzewski actually pull a one and doner, which he hasn't done like since. I mean, he did Jabari Parker, but I mean, traditionally Mike Krzyzewski is not that kind of coach. So I mean, maybe he's gonna start doing stuff like that. And I mean, there are two recruits that they have. Gosh, who was it?
Kennard.
Luke Kennard, who's like number 23 on Rivals, and also they had. Let's see here. Chase Jeter, yeah.
Yeah.
Out of Las Vegas, another big dude. Definitely not a Jahlil Okafor. I'm gonna start by saying just now, but definitely somebody. I mean, we know what Krzyzewski can do with a big guy like that, and I'd say if he can play better defense and shoot free throws, that he might make almost as good as an impression as Jahlil Okafor.
True. He probably will stay around. I feel like Kennard's probably going to be around for at least more than 1 year.
No, I'm talking about Chase Jeter.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I don't know.
As a center.
As a center, I feel like you're right. He definitely won't make a scoring impact or an offensive impact like Okafor did, but he definitely has that potential. And being a big guy in a system that always seems to have a big man that does things really well, Krzyzewski always seems to use the big man as best as he can and play to that person's strengths. He's probably going to end up with a great year, really.
I mean, he's one of the coaches. I mean, he's gonna be in the Hall of Fame I think he might be already.
Probably.
I mean, he's broke so many records. But Duke this past year's lost Jahlil. Obviously, we talked about that in the last video. Tyus Jones and Justice Winslow. Correct?
Yeah, Tyus just declared, did he not?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that really sucks.
I know. I mean, he was the MOP for the
for the national championship game.
Yeah. So I mean, like, I don't know. I don't think he's a D'Angelo Russell, but he's definitely somebody who can make a difference on the court. As how that will translate to the NBA, I have no idea. I'd say he's probably going to go into the division league somewhere for at least a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're getting off topic. So Chase Jeter could probably make a huge impact for Duke. Like you said, Krzyzewski knows how to use the big men, and I think that's probably that's exactly why he went after Chase Jeter. So I mean, and we also have to factor in he's from Las Vegas and he's going to Duke. That's kind of a big move. So I mean,
it's a large move, yeah. The impact that he's going to make right off the bat, I think it could definitely be significant. I probably need to read up about what kind of player he really is, but because there's really no telling how well he could do with a coach like Krzyzewski until you actually see him. But as far as his impact on a team that just got to the Final Four, and in doing so, or at least trying to do that again, I don't know. I don't see it. I think Duke definitely has potential to be a great team again next year. I just don't think Final Four is in their ballpark.
Yeah. I don't know. Like I would disagree just because like which we're gonna get to next. But like I mean, you look at a coach like Tom Izzo, and he didn't have the best team, but he took him to the Final Four. And Krzyzewski is just as good, if not a better coach than Izzo. I don't want to sit here and compare him because that's a whole other debate. But
Oh yeah.
I would definitely say that Duke is going to be a contender in the tournament. Final Four is very probable in my opinion. Um, but it's like you said, it's just how these freshmen perform. I mean, we got to keep in mind that they are freshmen coming into college ball. So, um, but next we're going to talk about Michigan State. Um, not the best recruiting done. The only recruit that is really worth getting excited about for Michigan State is Caleb Swanigan, and I believe he is a power forward. He might be a power forward or a center. Um, Definitely can make an impact, but I was confused. I know we were talking about this, Adam. Like they already have Costello, and he's a senior. He'll be a senior this upcoming year, and they get Caleb Swanigan. So I'm just wondering maybe if like Izzo's trying a whole Matt Painter thing where he has two big dudes and he's going to put them in at the same time and just have a big presence on the court.
You know, off the bat, I have to with your thing. I would total recruiting class this year above Duke's, to be honest. There's two 5-stars, Deontay Davis and Caleb Swanigan, both of which are 6'8", 6'9". They are both big dudes, even though they're kind of short as far as the other recruits we've talked about being 7 foot or so. But Michigan State this year, they went out and got Caleb Swanigan. It was a surprise decision because everyone kind of thought he was going to go to Cal. It was almost a done deal, it seemed like, at least as far as California is concerned. But Swanigan is going to be great. I'm almost positive. He's just a big guy. He's going to be a center. Even though he's only 6'8", he is 260, I think, already, and that is big. That kid's 18. That is nuts. I would never. I can't believe a kid in high school playing basketball is that weight. But the other guy, 6'9", 6'9", Deontay Davis, is nearly just as big and might be more athletic. But Michigan State's recruiting class this year is probably the best that they've had in, man, I want to say like 6-7 years since they brought in like Kalen Lucas or Brandon Dawson.
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green was in the Kalen Lucas class, but he wasn't nearly as touted as Dawson. He was a 3-star recruit. Lucas was like a 4-star, but that's like how those players develop. The thing I have to say about this class is I think it was a surprise to Izzo that he did what he did this year.
Well, how so? Because he picked a big man or what?
Not necessarily, just the fact that I went back and I looked at their commitment list from the past like 7 years. He hasn't had big names. He's had big names that he's developed. He hasn't had big recruits coming out of high school. What he's done this year is he's got at least 2 really big recruits, and if he can develop those 2 guys, being Caleb Swanigan and my gosh, what's the guy's name? The 6'9" guy. The other 5-star recruit they have. If he can develop those guys as well as he developed Draymond Green, who became just like an all-time Michigan State basketball player, then there's no telling how well this team can do, especially if they stay around more than 1 year. I think it was just a surprise to Izzo that I think it was a surprise, at least to me, that he did as well recruiting this year as he did. Big names, anyway.
I'm saying, and like you look at the players and like their top recruits, and you also have to keep in mind that Tom Izzo is Tom Izzo, and what he just did in this past tournament is something that we don't see every year. He was a 7 seed and he took him to the Final Four, and I mean you just gotta. Honestly, right now Michigan State looks like the best team in the Big Ten with these 2 recruits, but like we won't know until we actually see them play. And Caleb Swanigan also, with the whole distance thing, he's from Fort Wayne. So
Yeah.
moving to Michigan State is not a big deal, and I think he's going to be super comfortable there, and he's probably going to make a big difference. Um, okay, we need to get this rolling. I don't even know if people are probably watching by now. Thank you if you are. But last one, and surprisingly the weakest recruiting class is Wisconsin. They're losing Frank Kaminsky, and they're losing Jackson, and they're losing
Gosser.
Gosser and Sam Decker.
Oh yeah, and Decker. Dang.
Sam Decker.
That was
And
their team.
I'm Sam Decker showed out in those last few games in the tournament. I mean, he's always been a strong player, but he really showed his true colors in the last few games. And Frank Kaminsky's also obviously a big loss for Wisconsin. And honestly, Bo Ryan, he picked up some random recruits, nobody to like get excited about. And I was like, I mean, you think since they got the final game that maybe at least next year they'll have some better recruits. But I mean, I'm not too worried about it because knowing how Bo Ryan coaches and knowing these players and where they're at doesn't really matter because Bo Ryan's going to coach them. I mean, I've read a lot of articles about Bo Ryan and his coaching style, and I've even talked about it in some of my writing on the blog. It's fundamental to the core. It's purist basketball coaching, and like I think he's just gonna make these players. They're gonna stay there probably all 4 years, and he's gonna make them so well rounded by their senior year. They're gonna be back to where they were last year. So maybe not immediately Wisconsin going to the Final Four, but I could see it in their future just because Bo Ryan is the coach that he is, and he can build these players and make them into Frank Kaminsky's and Sam Deckers and Jacksons. And I just feel like Bo Ryan's going to be the key in anything that Wisconsin does. It doesn't matter what recruit they're going to get.
Yeah, their class this year, it's sort of surprising, as successful as they have been. It's weird that they didn't get his bigger name, or at least one big name, based on their success recently in the past years. But it's not surprising in the fact that Bo Ryan always seems to grow these players. He's just planting college basketball player seeds. They're going to grow into giant, like, redwoods that just...
Frank Kaminsky trees.
Yeah, Frank Kaminsky basketball player trees. It's going to be crazy because you know that these kids that he brought in this year are going to be great 3 years down the road. One thing to look at, though, is I think ever since Bo Ryan started coaching at Wisconsin, he's had... he had like 10, like every season he's been there, he's had at least 20 wins, I think. Or at least every season but his first. I think this year they're losing so much, there's a good chance that streak might end. But, as I said, he's Bo friggin' Ryan. I don't even know what to say. I hate the guy because he's always beating Indiana, but...
We're unbiased on this blog.
Yeah, I'm totally unbiased.
We're Indiana fans on our own time. We don't talk about it on this. But I will say I will say that I lost my train of thought.
Well, I have to say that this is what we're going to talk about, is Wisconsin definitely not getting back to the Final Four, but they are going to be a team that they have any success whatsoever will surprise anyone, I think, as much as they've lost this year.
Yeah. Okay. I agree with that. And also to keep in mind, there's a bunch of top recruits that haven't committed yet. And I know Kentucky's actively seeking all of them, like we were saying earlier. The big one I know, it was, Jaylen Brown. He hasn't committed to anybody, and Kentucky's actively seeking him. And Ben Simmons, the number 1 draft pick, went to LSU. I don't know why. I'm sure Calipari's kicking himself in the butt about that one. But things could change. I mean, I don't know. I know Michigan State and Kansas is also another team that is actively seeking these number 1 or these top recruits. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Kansas made their way to the Final Four. Just as a side note, but altogether, I would say the only team that's probably going to be back in the Final Four next year is Duke.
Yeah, I can see that. I can definitely see that. Duke is Duke, but at the same time, Michigan State and Izzo does what he does. He's a March coach. That's all. It seems like they had Michigan State was so weird this year. Literally until the week of the tournament, you really didn't feel like they had any point or any like momentum in the tournament. The Big Ten tournament, that is, they seemed good, but then I don't know. I didn't give them any hope in the tournament past the Sweet 16. Sure enough, they're there. They're in the Final Four. It could happen. It always can with either of those coaches, Krzyzewski or Izzo.
Yeah. I mean, and my reasoning for Duke is, it's because like it's Krzyzewski, and the reason I'm not saying Kentucky is because you're putting a lot of pressure on two freshmen if you're going to start them and want them to perform just like the team last year. That's a daunting thing. Like to step into the shoes to step into the shoes as the team that just left and be just as good. That's a tough thing to do, and I just don't think those freshmen can do it.
Another thing we just need to keep in mind, there's a lot of time left. I mean, these recruits have quite a bit of time to make decisions still, and
yeah. I mean, we're only talking about committees, though.
Right now.
But, so that's all the time we got for today, guys. I really appreciate you listening. Like always, make sure you tune in. Be on the lookout for the next one. It's going to be probably in a week. And, give us any feedback. What do you think? Is it too long? Are we rambling? What would you guys like to talk about? Just let us know. And thanks again for watching. Adam, as always, it's been nice.
Thanks.
All right, guys. We'll see you next time. Thanks.